Hey neighbors, take a deep breath. Imagine for a second that the sun is just starting to dip below the tree line. And right next to you, there's a cozy chair with your name on it. No notifications, no rush, just space. Welcome to the very first episode of Front Porch Retreats. I'm your host, Ashley Smith, and I am so glad you decided to pull up a chair today. My co-host, Judith Stokes, and I are very excited to share with you the first Front Porch Retreats conversation. We're kicking things off with a concept that is the heartbeat of everything we do here, the Front Porch Mindset. Now, you might be thinking, I live in an apartment or I don't have a porch, but a Front Porch Mindset isn't about physical architecture, it's about a way of being, curious, available, and present. Why does this matter right now? According to the American Psychological Association's 2025 Stress in America report, half of adults in the U.S. report feelings of emotional disconnection, saying they have felt isolated from others, felt left out, or have lacked companionship often or some of the time, suggesting loneliness may have become a defining feature of life in America. So it seems like we continue to kind of be going through this social recession. Even though economic indicators may be relatively stable this year, our collective social sentiment kind of worries me. So let's talk about front porches. Historically, porches served a dual purpose, practical and social. Before the advent of climate control and easy-to-access transportation so you can go anywhere, the porch was a cooling station, a place to escape the stifling heat of indoor kitchens and parlors. The porch was a liminal space, a bridge between our private lives and the public world. By sitting on the porch, a family existed in kind of this state of passive availability. You weren't visiting the neighborhood, and you weren't hiding from it. You were kind of just there or present. And just as much today as in the past, we tend to develop friendships with those we encounter frequently and spontaneously. Except today, we've traded that front porch for digital walls. But all is not lost. Come join us as Judith and I visit and chat about a front porch mindset. Stay tuned after the conversation to hear the Try It Today challenge and get in on the fun. Well, the porch has been the backdrop for so many connective discussions for us and others who have joined us over the years on the porch. And it's really mostly because of, the unique mindset a front porch seems to foster for us. Judith, you and I have talked a lot about how we often take this idea of a front porch mindset into other settings. And we both find it often to be an approach that really effectively draws others into the conversation in a positive and constructive way. So as we kick off Front Porch Retreats, I wanted to ask you, how would you describe that front porch mindset to someone who hasn't experienced it with us?
Well, it's interesting because people have a siding. They're either one side or the other side of a discussion. And what I find is different, and probably why I have challenges with that, is that my normal way of dealing with things is to hear people out and try to inquire how they came to where they're at today in this thought pattern. That's what the front porch allows, because the discussions are around the topic, not combative, but instead seeking understanding. And that's always been the case with front porches that I've experienced anyway. And maybe it's just the old-timey in me, but I believe that that's the way society will work best, is if we understand each other. We may not agree, but at least we can give grace to that and try to explore more. If I understand where you're coming from, I'm more likely to understand where you're trying to get to. Does that make sense?
It does. And I'm curious, why do you think a front porch is a great place to have those types of conversations that, if you're sitting around a conference table, or if you're, just in the supermarket or wherever, what about a front porch really lends itself to having some of those kind of sensitive discussions that seem to really get people riled up these days?
Well, I think the front porch, again, part of that is history, I believe, was and is a place where you take away the parameters, you take away the judgments, you take away the inhibitors. And any other place you're at, it seems that there's, again, if you're sitting across the table from someone at a conference, you may be trying to influence them.
Oh.
Instead, you are sitting next to them on the steps or in chairs or even standing over the rail on the porch. You're more aligned with them. Your body's aligned with them, which means that you have the opportunity, if you're open to it, to have your mind aligned rather than trying to not hear them and instead influence them.
So let me just ask, how I just want to kind of double click on something you said there. What I heard was, when we're sitting around a conference table or, we're, in a meeting, whether that be at town hall or whether that, be for our jobs, there's always an agenda, it seems like there's always an agenda. And I wonder, just thinking back on some of my own lived experiences, I think maybe that's where sometimes I avoid having conversations if I get the sense that someone else is going to try to persuade me or tell me something in a manner that, I may not agree with, but don't feel comfortable responding to. And your point, if I understand correctly, is like the front porch, it almost fosters a feeling that allows us to have a potentially challenging conversation.
Being able to do that by decreasing inhibitors.
Say more about that.
Well, the inhibitors, if you think about it, again, if you look at, are you here to build or are you here to contract? You pull things back. And the pulling things back is saying, I want to limit your input so that I can override with my input. And that's different than saying, I want to expand your input because I want to hear you completely to understand where you're coming from, because we've clearly had different experiences to have arrived at different determinations on a topic. And the front porch is so open. It's open to that. Whereas if you go into a conference room, usually you have an intended action item coming out of it. On a front porch, there may be no action item. Or there could be more research to be done. And there could also be more opportunities to extend the conversation to the next time you're on the front porch.
I think sometimes, especially when we think about like what we want to accomplish, we're such a goal-oriented society.
We are.
And totally one of those people. I love a good goal. Give me a goal and let me run towards it. And, sometimes I think about that. How is this how I'm supposed to exist today? Is the purpose of my life to achieve goals? But I think that's really interesting to say also, a front porch, you maybe start the conversation and then you walk away, and there are no walls. I mean, maybe there are on some front porches, but most of them, it's open. It's easy to access. Maybe you wander by in the evening and you have a couple minutes. You stop and visit. It's kind of like that. I think if we had, more casual conversations with fewer agendas, we'd actually learn a lot more about those who surround us and those we interact with.
Well, the other thing is that there's nothing that says that we can't take that break when we need to and close out that conversation for the moment and come back. That's one of the things about front porches to me, is that you're able to reconnect, because I'll say to you something, and we've done this, where I say, remember the other day when we were talking about, and we didn't complete that, and I've been thinking about it a lot, and then bringing it back with, here's how I heard you say that. Is that what you intended me to understand?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is really important, because it's like so often our lives are really journeys. And I think that's kind of, if
That's the point.
get to where you're going here, the point is that, we don't have to solve everything. Even if there is a goal to having a conversation on the front porch is kind of fosters the mindset and the feeling that it can be continued and the world won't end.
Yes.
And I think so often, we maybe there are many reasons for some of the intense feelings that we often hold in our society, with our neighbors, those we don't necessarily agree with on every point of the way that we or they live. It's what would be different if we offered a continuation instead of an ending to a conversation?
Well, that kind of goes along with the quote that I'll be providing.
Oh, okay. Ooh.
So I think if you listen to my quote, you'll understand that one totally.
Okay, well, we'll have to get to the quote section here very soon.
Yes. Look forward to that.
All right, well, now we're going to move into our quotes portion of our conversation. So Judith and I both selected a quote that we felt really resonated with this theme today of Front Porch Mindset. So Judith, would you like to share your quote first and tell us what it is and why it resonates with you?
Well, my quote comes from a song, which is not unlike me, given the fact that I think music is a connecting piece for people. And the songwriter is Tracy Lawrence, and the song is "If the World Had a Front Porch." The quote from the song is, "If the world had a front porch like we did back then, we'd still have our problems, but we'd all be friends." To me, that is so accurate for what happened as I grew up. Because the thing of it is that people came together. They congregated in a place. Front porch is the image of it. And they had differences, without a doubt. But those differences never kept them apart after the discussion. Whereas in today's world, it seems that we are disconnected to the point that we really aren't able to reconnect after our discussions. And so I think adding the front porch mindset within our environment allows that. And I think we would have a healthier society, a lot more fun, and really be able to solve problems too.
I really like that. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So just for us, would you reread what was that quote again from Tracy Lawrence?
I wish I could sing it.
Ooh,
but I don't.
Come on.
No, I can't. If the world had a front porch like we did back then, we'd still have our problems, but we'd all be friends.
That is a really good one. Well, my quote that I chose for this theme today was, it's attributed to William Faulkner. And it's, "A porch ain't made for rushing. It's where you sit and let the day explain itself to you." And that just really resonated with me, because sometimes I think we forget to slow down. And the front porch to me kind of it's a signal in my mind that it's a place where it's okay to slow down. And it's a reminder that, you don't usually have a TV on your front porch. You don't usually have, other distractions. It's just, whatever's right there. Hopefully you're lucky like me and you have a small front porch. I don't have a big one. I just have a small front porch today. And I have, some chairs. It's nothing fancy, but it's a nice place. I actually prefer to sit on the step. That's my preferred place to sit on my own porch. And I do that sometimes, especially when it's warm enough. I love to sit out there and just, think about the day. And I might be alone. I might be with others. But it's a place to remember, that the day happened and now we're here, and it gives my mind a moment to think about the day without really reliving it, with just, letting it be how it is. So again, my quote was, "A porch ain't made for rushing. It's where you sit and let the day explain itself to you." And again, that was attributed to William Faulkner.
That's good. That's an exciting one. And you've got the environment that's perfect with the tree out front and the ability to have the bush and watch and just be.
Yeah, that just being. Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Yep.
No expectations, no requirements, just be however you be.
It's time for this episode's Try It Today challenge. These small, low-stakes experiments are designed for anyone, anywhere to jump in and join us in an exploration. We'll be doing them right alongside you, and we'll share out on Instagram and Facebook. You can find us at Front Porch Retreats. Since today is all about a front porch mindset, this episode's Try It Today challenge is an awareness walk. So here's the challenge. Walk or spend time outside for 20 minutes in your neighborhood or in an area that you're familiar with. No headphones or earbuds, no podcast, audiobook, music, or games. Your goal? Find 3 things you've never noticed before today. We want to hear how it went. Find us on Instagram or Facebook at Front Porch Retreats, or this episode on our YouTube channel to share how your Try It Today went. Drop a comment or share a photo of your walk or time outside if you want. We're excited to celebrate you. Before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought from Elie Wiesel. He says, "The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference." Choosing a front porch mindset is a quiet, radical act of love. It's a refusal to be indifferent to the person standing right in front of you. Thank you for spending your time with us today. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe to the Front Porch Retreats channel on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. You can find the full conversation guide for this episode on our website at frontporchretreats.com. Use the conversation guide to initiate and experience more and deeper conversations in your own life. See our show notes for links and more information. See you soon. Bye, neighbors.